Kia ora tātou katoa e te aro mātou o te tua koe ei mātua puru mai e tātou rori marumaru o te iare. Kia ora mātou. I'm Allan-Moetaua, born and brought up in the Cook Islands, in Rarotonga actually. Came out here to do my tertiary education. I've been involved in screening from the community level. There's an old cervical screening poster, a Pacific one with a little girl at the front of it. That little girl is actually my daughter, who's now 25. So that's how long I've been involved in screening, right from the inception of the cervical screening program, and now I work for the Ministry of Health in the National Screening Unit. Thank you to Dr. Simon. You did a lot of my presentation around screening, and that's fine. I'm quite happy for you to do that, so I can cut my one short. So the National Screening Unit is based, just in case you don't know, the National Screening Unit is part of the Ministry of Health. We are responsible, or the National Screening Unit is responsible, I better put my glasses on, I'm trying to pretend I don't wear them. The National Screening Unit is responsible for a number of screening programs. However, for this Fono, I'm only going to talk about the cancer screening programs, the two that we're responsible for, and they are the breast screening and the cervical screening program. The other programs are actually antenatal and newborn screening programs that we are also responsible for. The National Screening is responsible for setting policies, quality standards, evaluation, and monitoring and funding of the delivery of both the cancer screening programs. I've launched into it without actually going through I tend to do that. Okay, what I propose to cover, I've just done my introduction. And then I want to talk about a little bit about the cancer screening programs. And then let's look at what's working for Pacific, and also some of the things that need room for improvement around screening. Okay. Oh, that one. Okay. So as I said, I've just done a little introduction. So for breast screening, how is screening working for Pacific women? Can we have that one, eh? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's not too bad. You can see it. For the National Screening Program, the coverage, this is the coverage for 36 months, and we do our figures in 36-month block, because that's how long, like every woman should have a smear every 3 years. And so this is just for Pacific.
Every 2 years.
Pardon? It's 3 years. 3 years for cervical and 2 for breast. So this is from January 2011 to September 2011. We've separated them into age groups, but overall we've got coverage of 56.2% total. So, and the target for cervical screening is 80%, so we're still quite a long way away from target for Pacific women. But the one I'm really concerned about is the pink. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, the light pink one, the 20-year-olds, they're actually going on a decline rather than going up. We've got good coverage rate for the 20-year-olds, 24, but the 25 to 29 is going down a bit. So that's some of the work we need to do and work on. And now, For breast coverage for Pacific, for the 24 months to 31st of August, we've got a total of 67.3%, and the target for breast is 70%. So we're doing really, really well for Pacific. So that, to me, that's a real positive. What's working? I think what's working for Pacific is that, good relationships and linkages. We do a lot more visiting. I do a lot more visiting of DHBs and our Pacific workers, and we have regular meetings. I have regular meetings with the Pacific screening workers, and I also harass Pacific DHB Pacific managers. I haven't started with Saloma, but I will. But everyone, yeah. But everyone else I hassle, and I send out data and just to encourage, our people at the DHB level to start fighting for us as well. Also, what's working is the buy-in from Pacific organisations like Pacifica, who they've taken on the championing of the screening programs, and also providers, and that's all providers. That's not just specific providers. That's also who we call our lead providers, our regional providers. They've come in on the, they're backing us. They're doing heaps of work around making sure that that Pacific women are being screened, and that Pacific women feel comfortable to be screened and to be re-screened as well. Because our problem isn't always been about being screened for the first time, but also Pacific women coming back regularly, every 2 years for breast and every 3 years for cervical. Also, it's about the multi-pronged approach, and when I talk about a multi-pronged approach, it's also about working, like the NSU working with providers working with the community. It's also about the campaign that we have, the media campaign we have. It's all those, there's lots of little things that's happening, put them together, it's working really well. And also, the NSU has set targets for providers to reach for Pacific women, and it's being enforced. Okay, room for improvement. We need to continue building new relationships, enhance existing relationships and linkages, and we also need to develop for Pacific tools that can help our providers and Pacific workers identify their populations and also how to work with their populations. An example of that is for Pacific, I've been asking our people who know how to do maps to do some maps around Pacific populations in the three main areas, for example, Auckland, Wellington, and the Waikato region, so that we can concentrate some effort on the bigger populations in those areas. Okay, and also I think there's room to consider for screening ethnic-specific approaches. As Saloma said earlier, we are Pacific people. It's a convenient title, but we are from different island groups. And how we got to New Zealand are all different as well. And we have got 3 island groups who are actually New Zealand citizens. The Cook Island Māori people, the Tukalauans and the Niueans, they are New Zealand citizens as of birth. And so, there are huge differences between Pacific, but there are some common things that we work together. And so I think it's not saying that we forget the smaller groups when we look at ethnic specific, but we do look at some strategies that can work for specific groups, like what works for Samoans, what works for Cook Islanders, and maybe that way we can improve our coverage rate even better. I mean, it is improving and it is getting better. Like you can see for the breast screening, we've done really, really well. Cervical screening, we are still struggling. But, we'll get there. It is a much more sensitive area, and a lot more of our women are more likely to have breast screening as well, rather than have cervical. Yeah, so, and there are a whole lot of other reasons as well, and cost could be one of those. We've got a free program, but we don't for breast, but we don't for cervical. But that's not being free is not always the answer. Okay, and any questions? Yes. Yes, Te Rangi.
One of the questions that I have is in our region, in our district, the non-subcontract from the ministry or our DHB to our Pacific providers in our region. Now, this is something that I've found in the time that I've come into the screening program and forever advocating, why is it that there is no contract specific for Pacific providers within our region? And to this day. And so that's something that I'd like to bring to this forum. And I'd like some answers as to why there is no specific contract direct to our Pacific providers within our region in Pōneke. That's my question.
And my answer is I don't know. Because some of that stuff you do need to talk to your DHB.
Because again, there's inequality there already. And we talk about not increasing the rate of our Pacific participation in the screening program. But that is one inequality in itself. We talk about inequality, it will continue on. Unless we address some, and why we are seeing working in that area, why some of our Pacific providers are not buying in. Because, like everything else, you can't run on air. Yeah. And that's my own, whakaaro, my own thoughts going to working in the areas and that. So that's something that I'd like, the Ministry of Health to think. And it's not just something for this forum, but it is something that I've been passionate about for the last couple of years, asking questions as to why.
Okay. Thank you.
Te alofa ane, wonderful presentation. You mentioned in your presentation that we'll be looking at an ethnic group. With Saloma's presentation earlier on, 50% of the population of Pacific are Samoans. Is there a way of the ministry now start looking at a specific Samoan screening program going?
No, because we do come under Pacific as a group, rather than breaking it up into little groups. What I'm suggesting is in each DHB that we may be one of the things, because the ministry doesn't deliver, we fund, yes, but we don't actually deliver at ground level. But one of the things that I'm keen to work with people is around developing those ethnic specific strategies to address the ethnic specific groups.
Yeah, because the reason why I'm asking the question, because it could be lead to a disadvantage to another populations. And so it would be nice for the ministry to start looking at.
We could, however, I think one of the issues you have to look at is also of need. Samoans might have the biggest population, but do their people have the biggest need? And if you look at stats, Cook Islanders are actually the most unhealthy. So therefore, we could turn that around and say Cook Islanders need to have their own. Not because I'm a Cook Islander, but that's what the stat says. That the greatest need of the Pacific population is actually amongst Cook Islanders, Niueans and Samoans third, yeah.
Thank you, Anne. It's a very good discussion to have. But just on Te Rangi's query about a Pacific contract, and the thing is, DHBs don't have the fund. It comes from the Ministry of Health. So we can't do much there unless it comes from the top. DHBs can only advocate, but there's also other avenues that we can look at. In terms of PHOs, the services to improve access funding, health promotion funding in PHO land, Those are the other type of funding we can advocate. But I'm still holding the national screening unit to ransom because they really need to up the rate of Pacific women, the cervical screening. Also, the CCN, the Central Cancer Network, have had funded 2 projects for under the inequalities funding stream. And that one of those projects may be in the next round of, if we still have some money, Joe, maybe that's a project we can put forward to the inequalities at the CCN group as a Pacific project to improve our screening rates, is a Pacific project specifically for cervical screening.
I used to work with in women's health in particular, and I believe access is a huge issue. I don't want to talk to the mic, sorry. Access after hours, there's no after hours services. If we found that the rescreening rates have gone up, why don't we offer services within the centres that do the mammograms and have cervical smear takers within the same building? It's just that sort of.
But as I said earlier, the ministry actually doesn't deliver at the coalface. The providers who are in the community and the DHBs do that delivery, and it's at that delivery that it makes the changes. What we do around policy and quality standards and all that kind of stuff, that's what we can do really well. But the delivery is actually the DHBs and the providers who we give them the money and they do what they can to reach the targets.
But presumably the funding could be directed more widely. It could be directed to specific providers. And that has to come from ministry level.
It can if they, and we have, I mean, we do have them in Auckland, we do have Pacific service providers. They have put in the bid and they got the bid. So it's not just, I'm not... Where I used to be.
In Porirua, where I work, they seem to have, I don't know whether they've reduced the funding, but they've certainly shifted it around so that some Pacific providers have lost their funding that were for Pacific by Pacific. But then there's other providers who, I know at Porirua Union Health, where I used to work, they believe that their model is that it doesn't necessarily have to be Pacific people that are providing the service, although that place has got a lot of Pacific people. But they go out, they do have initiatives like they go out and have the cervical screening nurse going out and doing the smears in the home and initiatives like that.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to leave questions there. I'm just conscious of time, so if we can let Anne just finish up. But we, as I say, we will come back for some more discussion this afternoon.
Okay, and for conclusion, all I'm actually going to say is it is great coverage rate for Pacific, and we need to keep that up. We also need to improve the NCSP the National Cervical Screening Program coverage rate. But we also, I think one of the biggest issues is that we also need more Pacific workers. And we also need to make sure that the people who work with Pacific are Pacific sensitive, even if they're not Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you very much to all the speakers this morning, and hopefully that sort of set the scene around cancer and cancer control for you as we move into the workshops that we've got happening after morning tea time. So just to let you know what that process is, as I say, there's 3 concurrent workshops happening. The Workforce and Community Cancer Fono is going to be held, there's a meeting room behind this meeting room, so we'll open the doors to that and you'll see that there's an area there. Pacific Radio Project will be in the front of this bigger hall, and the cancer services and information for Pacific communities will be in the back. What we'll do is we'll shift some chairs and have that at the back. So it's for self-selection, whichever ones of these workshops you want to participate in. Shirley will come round at 11:55 and shift us all around, and we'll just let you know when you shift areas as to where the next 3 workshops are going to be held. And then we come together for lunch at the end of that again. So thank you very much for the morning. Give you your present.